The back three of Azpilicueta, Chalobah and Sarr. Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining me on this independent off-tube studio commentary. It's the Carabao Cup quarter-finals at the Brentford Community Stadium. Brentford taking on Chelsea in a West London derby. The game has just got underway. And of course, a lot of question marks this week as to whether this game was going to be played, whether it was going to be postponed because of the pandemic. But both teams have fielded an 11 for this evening, albeit Chelsea making a whole string of changes. Brentford pretty much going with their strongest 11, barring maybe a couple of changes, but it's already a fight for it midfield as the ball just deflects away from Saul. Kept alive on the left-hand side here by Marcus Alonso for Chelsea, one of the few regular starters, you could say, in the team this evening. But for Brentford, it is Alvaro Fernandez in goal with a back three of Madsbæk, Sorensen, Pontus Jansson and Ethan Pinnock. Sergi Canos and Rico Henry are the two wide men, with Matthias Jensen, Vitaly Janelt and Shandon Baptiste as the three in midfield. Johan Visser and Brian Mbeumo are the two up front. As for Chelsea, it is Kepa Arrizabalaga in goal, a back three of Cesar Azpilicueta, Trevor Chalobah and Malang Sarr. The four across the middle are Xavier Simons, Mateo Kovacic, Saul and Marcus Alonso, with Harvey Vale, Ross Barkley and Jude Jacob Sansa Bell as the three up front. So Chelsea making a whole string of changes this evening, although Thomas Tuchel did say that he was going to try and preserve a few of his players in line with the pandemic situation. A couple of players, of course, having to self-isolate as well. But it's a good opportunity this for Brentford, playing at home in front of a packed crowd as well. They'll be looking to try and get into the semi-finals for the second season running. But it is Chelsea in possession here now with Kovacic. Over towards Simons on the right-hand side. Back over towards Chalobah now on the halfway line. Alonso there being closed down by Canos. But a positive start this from Chelsea, barely giving Brentford a touch in the first couple of minutes. Ball now played back towards the edge of the penalty area. And Kepa now over towards Cesar Azpilicueta. Still keeps the captain's armband on this evening, of course, with so many changes. But you can see that Thomas Tuchel has tried to have a thread of experience throughout the side, with Azpilicueta in defence, Alonso and Kovacic in midfield, and then Barkley as one of the three in that attacking line. But the ball goes out towards the left-hand side. A bit of space here now for Alonso, just trying to get away from Canos. Runs straight into him, falls over, expects a free kick. Referee Andre Mariner says absolutely not. It is just going to be Brentford in possession, although that's a long ball to no one in particular there from Sergi Canos. It's up now by Chalobah, just at the edge of his own penalty area. There are two other quarter-finals being played this evening, after Arsenal, of course, got past Sunderland last night. It's Liverpool against Leicester City and Spurs against West Ham. Both those games also available on our service. And just a reminder as well that if it does reach 90 minutes and it's still all square, then we will go straight to a penalty shootout for going extra time. But 3 minutes on the clock, and it is certainly Chelsea enjoying more of the possession. Not really able to get too far forward, but not really giving the home side much of a touch. Here is Malang Sarr now on the left-hand side, finds Kovacic. Is that back in towards Chalobah. He's missing for a couple of games for Chelsea recently. Now it's Azpilicueta over towards the right-hand side. Simons now back over towards Azpilicueta. Pressing here as well from Johan Visser. Scored most of his goals from the bench for Brentford this season, albeit he did have an excellent game here against Oldham Athletic in an earlier round of the competition. 3 goals on that occasion. I think it might have been 4 from Visser on that occasion. Missed out through injury after getting those goals off the bench for Brentford as well. It was the brace he got in that 7-0 win against Oldham Athletic. Johan Visser. Brentford enjoying a pretty good run in the competition in terms of the draw right up until this game against Chelsea, of course, but it is the quarter-finals. You would expect it to be tougher opposition. As good play there from Saul. He needs a good game this evening. He's not really made much of an impact at Stamford Bridge so far. Goes square now to Azpilicueta. Traffic ahead of him, goes back to Saul. Early ball from him up towards Sansa Bell. Now he finds a bit of space down the left-hand side here for Alonso. Back into Kovacic. Alonso stays on the left-hand side. Got space now for a cross, and does put a cross into the penalty area. Just a bit too high for Harvey Vale. The ball's headed away, kept alive here now by Azpilicueta to Saul. Quick ball now towards the left-hand edge of the penalty area, looking for Alonso. Just a bit too much on that pass from Saul. It is out for a throw to Brentford. Didn't quite go out for a goal kick. So still a chance now for Chelsea to press, to try and win the ball back as high up the field as they can. Brentford haven't really crossed the halfway line with any kind of possession yet so far. It's Pinnock with the throw to Jensen, back to Pinnock, who just hoisted up in the air. That goes straight through to Chalobah. And Chelsea now back in possession inside the Brentford half with Azpilicueta. So we'll now over towards Kovacic on the left-hand side. He's got a few options here. Look, could have tried a slightly more ambitious ball into the box. Now he tries to channel it towards the edge of the area here for Ross Barkley. Under pressure there from Pontus Jansson. Barkley now over towards the right-hand side. Azpilicueta over towards Simons. His cross into the box is quickly dealt with by Rico Henry, but he's been stopped here by Saul and gets into a bit of a pickle now. Henry eventually able to play the ball out for a throw. Probably should have just cleared it the first time round when he had the chance. Just held onto it for a little bit too long. And it's out for a throw to Chelsea now down the right-hand side. Ball played back towards Chalobah. So options left and right here for Chalobah. Visser is pressing, but Chelsea keep possession. Goes down the right-hand side over towards the halfway line now. Couldn't keep that in place. It will be a throw to Chelsea now down the left-hand side, edge of the penalty area here with Alonso. Gets that one in, but that's a poor pass back really there from Bell, and out for a throw to Brentford now. Really struggling to keep the ball here in these early stages. 7 minutes on the clock now, but his goal. There's still no work for the Brentford goalkeeper. Certainly plenty of work for his defenders and midfielders trying to absorb this early Chelsea pressure. Header there from Visser. Jumps up with the Saul. It comes off the Brentford man last, so he's out for a throw to Chelsea. Tries to get players into the box. It's St. Bell's ball into the penalty area. It stops. It then drops back towards Alonso. He leaves it here for Kovacic. Back towards Malang Sarr. So we're now playing it towards Chalobah. Pressure there from Visser and from Baptiste. Now it's over on the right-hand side with Azpilicueta. Feeds that ball in towards Simmons. He gets robbed of it, and now Janelt plays it out towards Baptiste. Baptiste runs straight into Azpilicueta, who then slides that ball back towards Chalobah. It's picked up now by Saul. Towards the left-hand side, here is Kovacic now. Towards Alonso. Kovacic. Now it's with Chalobah on the halfway line. Brentford sat quite deep here, but they're trying to they've compacted their half of the field, really playing quite a high offside line. At the same time, not pressing too high up the field either, so there really isn't too much space for Chelsea to work with. But at the same time, Brentford aren't really able to take the ball off them now. It's with Chalobah going back towards Kepa. Chance to run out in the first team this evening. Mendy with some excellent form for Chelsea, albeit has made a couple of errors in the last few games, but he probably had his game of the season here at Brentford earlier in the season when Chelsea won 1-0 after Chilwell's goal at the end of the first half. But then Brentford absolutely peppered Chelsea's goal towards the end of the second half, with even Thomas Tuchel admitting at the end of the game that it really was their goalkeeper that kept them in. It's a little bit of luck as well, but Chelsea certainly trying to make their own luck early on in this game. And here's Alonso now breaking in from the left-hand side into the penalty area. Good work there from Janelt to spot that ball, and he clears it, but he doesn't clear it very well. Straight to Malang Sarr, and Chelsea once again back in possession inside the Brentford half. Here is Kovacic. His pass deflects off Visser, so now finally a chance for Brentford to break out as Jensen tries to play an early ball over the top, looking for Brian Mbeumo. He stays on side. He's only got Visser in the box, and the cross is behind him. Such a shame. I mean, Mbeumo wanted to play it early, so you can see the logic of that, but just means that perhaps a little bit less accuracy on the pass. Johan Visser just driving towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Pass in the end a couple of yards behind him. But here come Chelsea through the middle now with Ross Barkley. The Brentford players in front of him, but Barkley able to keep possession. Finds Kovacic and Alonso down the left-hand side. Here is Alonso now looking for options left and right. Just decides to roll it back towards Saul. Now it's with Trevor Chalobah inside towards Azpilicueta. Options for Azpilicueta, but again, Chelsea not really able to get across into the penalty area with Brentford playing quite high up. Watch that offside. Chich now under pressure there from Jensen back towards Chalobah. And this may well be a theme early on in this game, as Chelsea certainly look to dominate. I think it's probably they've certainly learnt their lesson from that last half an hour in that game earlier in the season, when they really did allow Brentford to have too much of the ball, and consequently the Bees were able to get that string of chances. Albeit they weren't able to beat Edouard Mendy on the night, but certainly Chelsea looking to try and dominate early. As just as I say that, though, Chalobah almost robbed of the ball there by Mbeumo. Azpilicueta, though, is across to cover, and he's able to roll that ball back towards Kepa. It's going to be a free kick to Chelsea. Looks like Soonsup Bell was brought down, taken quickly and over towards Kovacic. Really able to get an early ball into the box. Once again, Chelsea just stuck in midfield a little bit. Brentford perhaps aren't able to do much in terms of getting the ball off Chelsea, but so far Chelsea really haven't threatened the Brentford penalty area at all, save for a couple of runs from Alonso that in the end didn't result in a cross. But now a bit of a loose ball down the left, and this may be a chance here for Rico Henry, and he's going through the gears now down the left-hand side. He's got Mbeumo and he's got Visser in the box. Again, the pass is just a little bit short. Stopped there by Chalobah. Chelsea are still looking over, expecting an offside. Flag doesn't come, and it's Mbeumo's ball in for Visser. 5 yards out, heads that straight towards Kepa. It's a good save, but really it's a header straight down the middle. And the flag doesn't go up, so Visser, I thought Visser might have been offside when that cross was put into the 6-yard box. But there you go for Chelsea. 10 minutes worth of almost exclusive possession, but it's Brentford that have the first chance to try and score. And a booking early on now as Janelt just trips Kovacic, and referee Andre Mariner showing the yellow card to the Brentford midfielder. This was a great chance here. We'll just see again as Kovacic gets away. Yeah, it's a bit cynical there from Janelt. It's only 11 minutes into the game. Sometimes you see Premier League referees allowing that first one, but Andre Mariner obviously felt there's just a little bit too much intent there from the German midfielder. As we see Mbeumo's cross in. Well, it looks like he is level when that cross is put in. He really should have done better. He's only 4 or 5 yards out, and his header straight at the goalkeeper, who stood in the middle of the goal. So really Visser probably should have just tried a little bit harder to get that ball away from Kepa, but that certainly would have been a real sting there for Chelsea to start so positively here, and then Brentford take the lead with pretty much their first bit of attacking possession. But it wasn't to be. Chelsea now pushing forward again down the left-hand side. The pass to Alonso is behind him, and Sowell getting a bit of an earful there from his teammate Kovacic for looking for the wrong pass. I can tell you there have been 2 very quick goals at Anfield, and both of them have gone to the visitors. It's Liverpool 0, Leicester City 2. Vardy on 10 and Vardy on 13 minutes there for the Foxes. And just looking at the Liverpool lineup this evening, it is full of changes. Certainly that defence, it looks a little bit changed. The midfield looks like it's had a couple of changes as well, and it's Quentin Kelleher starting in goal for Liverpool as well. But that said, there's a few changes in that Leicester team, albeit they probably look a little bit more like their Premier League 11, whereas Liverpool, much like Chelsea in this game, really have gone through the changes just with that really busy Christmas period round the corner, starting with Boxing Day on Sunday, of course. But meantime here at the Brentford Community Stadium, 30 minutes gone, it is goalless, and back to Chelsea being in possession around about the halfway line now with Malang Sarr to Kovacic. Under pressure there. It's now with Visser playing it back towards Jensen, and now Janelt flicks the ball over the top. I say he flicks it. If he had flicked it, it would have been fine. He actually puts just a little bit too much power on that, and Kepa's able to come out. He gets there easily ahead of Mbeumo, puts it out for a throw down the right-hand side, and Canos leaves this one for Ethan Pinnock. Probably a little bit too far for Pinnock. He has got a very good long throw on him. Charlie Good's been stepping in, filling that role whilst Pinnock's been out injured. And that's a decent throw to find Mbeumo. Under pressure there from Malang Sarr. The ball deflects into the path of Rico Henry. Just 2 players to aim for in the box. He tries to pick out Mbeumo. Good header away by Sarr. Loose ball is now with Jensen. Heads it on towards Henry. And once again, it's Chalobah this time, just volleying that back towards the halfway line, where Janssen and Pinnock are back to sweep up for Brentford. Playing it back to Alvaro Fernandez, who's trying to improve with every game. He certainly didn't have a very good start for Brentford. In his first few games, he looked very unsure when it came to crosses. Still making a few too many errors, I think. But the problem, I think, that Brentford never intended for him to be a regular starting goalkeeper. When you think that he was signed on loan from Spanish second division team Huesca So the fact that they didn't even want him on their bench this season, I think, says quite a lot. There was never an intention for him to play as many games as he has been playing. Fascinating to see whether or not Brentford are going to think about bringing in a goalkeeper in the January window, which is only 9 days away now. Starting, of course, but Janelt in possession for Brentford now. Just starting to see a little bit more of the ball now, the home side. And here is Henry down the left, edge of the area. His cross is charged down by Simon. Played back into midfield. There's Janelt. Couldn't get that ball into the box. Baptiste going back towards Sorensen. Now Pontus Jansson just inside the centre circle. Chelsea doing what Brentford did. They're playing very high up the field as well, making it difficult for the Bees to get near the penalty area. But Pinnock does find some space here for Canos down the right-hand side. Canos now looking for a cross. His cross gets away from Visser. Doesn't quite reach Mbuemo, and now it's played away by Azpilicueta towards the halfway line. But Janssen plays it back to Visser, who drops the shoulder, does really well, and finds Janelt at the edge of the area. Janelt can't quite get a shot away, although he was trying to. Finds Rico Henry, and then Janelt with a high cross into the penalty area. It's Canos' header across the box, but that one drops straight to Simons, and then it's played away by Azpilicueta. Saul trying to keep that ball alive. It strikes Kovacic on the chest, although Brentford appealing it could have been a handball, and now potentially a counter-attack for Chelsea. Here is Soonsup Bell, gets to the edge of the area, finds Harvey Vale. Vale at a tight angle, puts across into the edge of the 6-yard box. The strike comes in, but it's not a good effort from Ross Barkley. Drags that one wide, and it never really looked like threatening the goal, in all fairness. But certainly a good counter-attack from Chelsea, having withstood a couple of minutes there of Brentford possession. If that ball had just arrived at Barkley's left foot a little bit quicker, it may well be that he would have been able to sort of hit that on the run and to put a bit more power through it. So decent run though from Soonsup Bell in the middle of that particular move. Short goal kick now from Fernandez. There's that ball forward. That was lost though by Jensen. Actually able to go back towards the halfway line now for Chalobah. So Brentford got to be a bit more precise with their passing when they're playing out from the back. There's a couple of times they've given the ball away to Chelsea now. But here is Malang Sarr. Down here by Visser. Kovacic now trying to start something down the left for Chelsea. Most of their attacks have gone down the left so far this evening. That's a poor ball though from Alonso back to Kovacic. It missed his teammate by about 3 yards, and now a chance for Mbuemo to bring the ball forward. He just dwelt on it for a little bit too long, and that allowed Saul to come across and make the challenge. Visser was trying to get into position but didn't quite get there in time. Now Chelsea again in possession with Saul finding Ross Barkley. A fluid front three. Sort of saw Soonsup Bell on the left-hand side in the previous move. Vale is now playing through the middle, and Barkley's gone over to the right. That's certainly not how Chelsea started. Barkley definitely started on the left with Soonsup Bell playing through the middle. It may well be that Thomas Tuchel has told his three front men just to try and rotate a little bit, to give them a bit of time in each position, and also to make it that bit more difficult for Brentford to work out who's marking who. Kovacic now down the left, can't quite get towards the penalty area. I'm going to say that the Brentford pitch is looking in good condition, considering that they have regular rugby union matches here with the London Irish ground sharing the stadium. You can see little marks where there has been some rugby played, and you can just about make out the rugby union lines as well on the pitch. But generally, the pitch is holding up very well, considering that we are now towards the end of December. Of course, a couple of games were due to be played here. One game that was due to be played against Manchester United last Tuesday that had to be postponed. Here come Chelsea now with a bit more space down the left. Kovacic finding Alonso, gets to the byline, lifts across into the edge of the 6-yard box. Barkley tries to head that one. He does get his head to it, albeit doesn't get too much power behind it. He lifts it up in the air rather than heading it towards goal. Easy save in the end there for Fernandez, who boots this one out for Mbuemo. Does well to hold it up and lays it off to Jensen. That's a really heavy touch from the Danish international, who has been below par, I would say, for Brentford this season. He's getting the start this evening, but he's not quite been as an important a link man as he was for them last year. That heavy touch was evidence of it there. He should have done better there, Matthias Jensen. Now Kovacic into Saul towards Chalobah. Azpilicueta down the right-hand side this time. Chelsea barely utilising Xavier Simons on that right-hand side. Seen too much of the young players so far. A lot more happening down the left here with Alonso. So after those few minutes of possession, Brentford are struggling once again to get on the end of the ball. And that's a good little touch on there from Harvey Vale to find Alonso, left-hand edge of the penalty area. The pressure from his fellow compatriot there, Sergi Canos. Alonso then plays it back to Kovacic. Now it's Malang Sarr switching the play over towards the right-hand side for Azpilicueta. That's poor though from Ross Barkley. I mentioned that Saul needs a good game this evening. Ditto Ross Barkley, he needs a good performance this evening as well. Two big players for Chelsea who haven't really made that sort of impact, albeit Saul's only just arrived. Hasn't really been able to get into the team, and the few games he has played has perhaps made the impact that he would have wanted. Barkley, of course, having his injury problems as well, but in the Chelsea squad now, having had some periods out on loan. He does have to make sure that he uses this chance this evening. Brentford, on the other hand, not really making too many changes from their regular Premier League 11. You can argue that with a couple of injuries that they've had recently, this pretty much would be the team they'd put out for a Premier League game, albeit perhaps Norgard would start ahead of Jensen or Baptiste. Potentially Onyeka might be in the team. So Ivan Toney's on the bench, of course, so he probably would be starting, almost definitely would be starting ahead of Vissa. But other than that, really, it's a strong team from Brentford, as strong as they can. As strong as they can have. Good pressure there from Mbeumo closing down on Trevor Chalobah. But the deflection from Mbeumo just loops out for a goal kick anyway, and Kepa could see that from a long way off, so he wouldn't have been too worried. As you can see, though, Chalobah just turns to his teammates there. He wasn't happy. I mean, to use a rugby quote, he was given a bit of a hospital pass there. He's keeping the ball with Brentford opponent pretty much stood on top of him there, so Chalobah would have been glad to have seen that one just deflect out for a goal kick. Now waiting to restart play. I mentioned the bench for Brentford. It is Force, Toney, Pert Harris, Norgard, Thompson, Cox. Cox is the young third goalkeeper. Then they've got Godos, Stevens and Onyeka on the bench this evening. As far as Chelsea, it's Hall, Kante, Webster, Jorginho, Rudiger, Pulisic, James, Mount and goalkeeper Bettinelli. So certainly a couple of younger players on that Chelsea bench. I don't think I've seen Hall or Webster play in a game before. See if they get a run out later in the game. But so far 22 minutes gone, independent off-tube studio commentary. It is goalless between Brentford and Chelsea. Liverpool have pulled a goal back, by the way, at Anfield. It's now Liverpool 1, Leicester City 2. Oxlade-Chamberlain on 19 minutes, reducing the arrears after those two early goals from Jamie Vardy. And it is still goalless in the other quarter-final being played this evening between Spurs and West Ham. Those two other games are available on our service. But here come Chelsea now, and it's Simon starting on the left this time. He threads a ball through. That wasn't a bad ball at all. Looking for Harvey Vale. It just gets away from him, though. And that one is straight back into the arms of Alvaro Fernandez. More space for Chelsea down the left-hand side on this occasion. By and large, Brentford have done well to restrict that space for Chelsea, just in and around the penalty area to try and get balls in. But here is Azpilicueta to Saul. Cross coming in now from the right-hand side. Ball headed away. And back into midfield. Now it's with Chalobah. Over towards the left-hand side. But that ball is a bit wayward. Out for a throw. And Thomas Frank just in shot there as that ball goes out to play near the Brentford dugout. Straight away barking out some instructions to his players. And just reading the hand signals from Thomas Tuchel as we just saw him there. He was effectively pointing up to the air and saying no, 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 and then pointing down to the pitch and saying yes. So I think he's been a bit unhappy with some of these hopeful balls that he's seen from his players in midfield. I'm going to say that I haven't seen too many risky balls from Chelsea, really. They've just not been able to get that ball into the box. So perhaps they have just tried to elevate it a bit more to bypass these Brentford defenders. But Azpilicueta now finding Ross Barkley. Out there, not letting Barkley turn, but he's able to get the ball away to Kovacic. And now here comes Alonso down the left-hand side, gets to the edge of the area, high cross. Fernandez, we only get a hand to that one. Azpilicueta with the follow-up effort. It's a long way over the bar. But once again, further evidence into the file for Alvaro Fernandez not being a confident keeper on crosses. He's got a lot of time to watch where this ball's going. It doesn't take any kind of deflection, it doesn't deviate, and he's just in the wrong place. He's jumping for that too early. And in the end, it's just a quick palm away. He's lucky there's no Chelsea player closer there to try and get a deflection, but that's the sort of thing that opposition players will see, and they'll feel encouraged against Alvaro Fernandez to try and test that. that too many times already from Alvaro Fernandez in his time in the Brentford first team. Just doesn't look confident on crosses, and it's cost Brentford quite a few goals already just with that one factor alone. Interestingly enough, Chelsea have had 3 shots on goal. None of them have been on target. Brentford with just the one effort on goal, and that was the header from Visser, which was on target. But here come the Bees now with Janelt to Baptiste. Baptiste finds Mbuemo, just spins away from Simons and then gets the ball in towards Rico Henry, left-hand edge of the penalty area. Henry trying to get away from Simons, finds Mbuemo. 3 Brentford players in the penalty area. Mbuemo's cross, good header away by Chalobah. Ball drops to Pinnock. He finds Sergi Canos. Pinnock now goes down the right-hand side, trying to get away from Saul. Pulls that ball in towards Canos, then deflects, and it's out for a throw. That's a bit better from Brentford, just trying to put that little bit of extra pressure onto Chelsea. Throw on down the left-hand side, close to that Chelsea penalty area. That's certainly the only chance for Brentford so far in this game. Let's expect Sorensen across to take the throw. Seem to have a list of players who are comfortable with the long throw. Mentioned Pinnock's very good at them. We've seen Charlie Good taking quite a few, and now it's going to be Sorensen. He's got 5 players to aim for in the penalty area, another 2 waiting at the end. So this is like a set piece for Brentford here if Sorensen can get the right ball in. But it's a lot of height in, probably a little bit short of where he'd wanted it, but it's deflects off Marcus Alonso, and it's out for a corner kick. So it certainly paid off to have all those players in the penalty area, putting pressure on that Chelsea defence. And now a chance for Brentford's first corner kick of the game, and it's going to be Jensen to take it. First corner kick of the match. Chelsea, for all that possession, haven't really had the ball in the box too many times so far. Haven't had that corner kick themselves, but now it's Pontus Jansson just waiting at the edge of the area, trying to get a final message over to Matthias Jensen, the corner kick taker. Visser there trying to find some space at the edge of the 6-yard box. Plenty of traffic here in front of Kepa to try and negotiate here as Jensen puts a high out-swinging ball in towards the edge of the area. It drops to Mbuemo, hits it on the volley. I think that was the intention, but in fairness, Mbuemo has caught that pretty awkwardly. And it looks as though it may have deflected. It has deflected off. It hasn't deflected off a Chelsea player. It's just Mbuemo caught it at such an angle. It's actually gone out for a throw down the left-hand side. Throw to Chelsea. Brentford have still left plenty of players up here to try and press and to try and win this ball as high up the field as they can. So has Kovacic and Malang Sarr as the short options. And just tries to get that ball into Kovacic, back to Sarr, under pressure from Mbuemo. Sarr's ball just about gets away from the penalty area. And now Ross Barkley can start a counter-attack for Chelsea. They've got 2 men over on the right-hand side. One of them is Azpilicueta. Xavier Simmons waits ahead of him. That's where the ball has gone. He's got options here, left and right. The cross is charged down by Rico Henry. Play back to Azpilicueta. Now it's with Saul. And Saul shaping to shoot from 25 yards. Does get a shot away. Stopped by the shins of Pontus Jansson. Baptiste just puts a little bit too much on that one for Mbuemo. And eventually the ball is flicked out for a throw to Brentford down their left-hand side, level with the edge of the area. Spurs have taken the lead against West Ham on 29 minutes. It's Steven Bergwijn who gets the goal for Spurs. We have one London team in the semi-finals, and guaranteed 2 more, of course, with there being 2 London derbies this evening. Brentford taking on Chelsea and Spurs taking on West Ham. Liverpool against Leicester is the only quarter-final this season that doesn't involve a London club, with Arsenal getting past Sunderland yesterday, including that hat-trick from Eddie Nketiah. Meanwhile, here at the Brentford Community Stadium, it's Kovacic back to Malang Sarr. And we're going back to our routine that we saw at the start of the match, with Chelsea just slowly keeping possession on the halfway line. Saul now back towards Trevor Chalobah. It's with Azpilicueta. To Barkley. So a couple of players around him there. Barkley's able to get away from Janelt. To Azpilicueta. And Brentford fairly effectively so far, I would say, are pressing. They're not able to get the ball off Chelsea as often as they would like, but they're certainly stopping any kind of a meaningful attack from the visitors so far. Here is Kovacic now. Square to Saul. His ball into the box, now picked up at the edge of the area here by Harvey Vale. Back towards Alonso. It's a little bit of a push in the back, but I don't think it's enough to give a penalty. Not since the start of this season anyway, when referees have seemed to have allowed a few more things, although I must admit some of those decisions are questionable. I did think that Spurs were probably due a penalty in the game against Liverpool at the weekend. That said, Spurs probably could have been down to 10 men by then for that challenge from Harry Kane. And it is interesting, isn't it, how even with VAR, still plenty of debate, plenty of subjective situations in football where really different pundits, different ex-referees would give you different opinions on how that particular decision should have been officiated. But Brentford now pushing forward down the left with Rico Henry inside to Vitaly Janelt. Again, Chelsea back in numbers, so Brentford forced to go back towards the halfway line. It's now with Sorensen. Sorensen towards the left-hand side. Henry now, just trying to get away from Simons, puts the cross in towards the edge of the 6-yard box. Jensen with the header. It's saved by Kepa before it's finally swept away. Jensen had a lot of time to get himself into position for that header, but disappointingly again, probably a little bit too close to the goalkeeper. Good work here from Henry, and he stands that cross up, edge of the 6-yard box. Jensen tries to get a bit more direction on it. It wasn't just straight down the middle, but still not enough power to really trouble Kepa. Two-handed save there from the Chelsea goalkeeper. Did well to palm it down before it was then cleared. But it's a throw on to Brentford down the right-hand side, and we know that this means Sorensen's going to get the towel out to try and dry the ball, get as much grip on there as he can, and hoist this one into the penalty area. An equaliser at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's Spurs 1, West Ham 1. Jared Bowen with the goal for West Ham on 32 minutes. Long throw now from Sorensen towards the edge of the area. It bounces away from Janssen. It's still inside the 6-yard box, but that's a good header in the end from Ross Barkley. A bit of the power out of it, looped it up in the air, and Kepa was stood underneath it to make a comfortable save. 32 minutes gone. There's not been too much action in this game, but it has seemed to have gone by fairly quickly. Both teams, I think, Brentford will certainly be happy with the half chances they've had, considering they've seen so little of the ball. And Chelsea a bit frustrated. Looking at the stats so far, 73% possession for Chelsea, just 27% for Brentford. But despite that, Brentford are leading 2-0 in terms of shots on target. So certainly Chelsea perhaps not doing as much with that possession as they would like. But you always fear for a team that don't have a lot of the ball, and then if the team in possession can take the lead, it just forces Brentford perhaps to try and push up a little higher. Brentford would like to keep this at 0-0. Of course, they'd love to take the lead themselves, but worry, I think, for Brentford is if Chelsea were to score, then the Bees would have to push out. They'd have to try and get more possession, perhaps leaving gaps at the back as well. But for the time being, Chelsea being kept at bay here in midfield. Kovacic now back towards Chalobah. And here is Azpilicueta. It's the edge of the area now for Sunset Bell. Hasn't seen too much of the ball in the last few minutes. Getting word there may be a fourth goal at Anfield as well. So that's been a very exciting half between Liverpool and Leicester City, and I can confirm that Leicester City are now 3-1 up at Anfield. Confirm the goal scorer in just a moment. Also getting word that Spurs may have gone 2-1 up against West Ham, so really is all happening in the other two quarter-finals so far. Starved of a goal here at the Brentford Community Stadium, but here is Kovacic down towards Alonso down the left. So now back towards Kovacic, under pressure, loses that ball to Matthias Jensen. He stayed down like he was expecting a free kick. Nothing given though, but Jensen then holds onto the ball for a little bit too long. But he does find a good ball to find Baptiste. Baptiste then into space, playing it into Rico Henry. Henry's ball is well dealt with by Chalobah initially, and then controlled and volleyed clear by Saul back towards the halfway line, where Pinnock heads that one across towards Sorensen. And in fairness, Brentford looked as though they wasted the chance to have a counter. They still managed to get the ball to the edge of the area, but credit to Chelsea, they were also able to do it. Just to confirm that it's James Maddison that's now put Leicester City 3-1 up away at Anfield. And at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Spurs now lead 2-1 against West Ham. And it's Lucas Moura on 35 minutes, making it 2-1 to Spurs. Here It's Vitaly Janelt now for Brentford to Sorensen. Chelsea playing a very high line there. I mean, Sorensen was probably about 10 yards away from the halfway line when he looked up to see where he could pass. And the Chelsea back line were pretty much approaching the centre circle. It really was very high indeed from Chelsea. But here they go on the counter themselves now with Alonso. Early cross from the left-hand side. Doesn't quite find Soonsup Bell. It's swept away towards the left-hand side. And Simons can't keep it in play. It's out for a throw to Brentford. But that was a bit quicker from Chelsea. Alonso just got down that left-hand side and put an early cross in this time. But it was well dealt with. Sorensen with the throw now to Janelt. Back to Sorensen up towards the halfway line and gets away from Mbeumo. So now play back towards Kepa. Who is Chalobah. Side now towards Saul. It's with Kovacic. Over to Alonso. Options here. Alonso has to go back towards Kovacic. Now it's with Chalobah. To Azpilicueta. Options ahead of him, but he just chooses to go back towards Saul. Chelsea still thinking safety first, control the ball, don't give Brentford any easy possession. Alonso now working the ball here with Kovacic down the left-hand side, being closed down there by Jensen, but he gets that ball into Soonsup Bell inside the area, who turns and gets a shot away. It does get a deflection. Surely, no, it doesn't. I thought that it was Harvey Vale, in fact, who had the effort in the end. But it looks as though it did get a flick off Janssen, and I just wonder whether or not Fernandes was just a bit too slow to react to this, the Brentford goalkeeper. It seems to me as though, actually no, it does get a deflection on quite a wide angle there, so maybe I'm being a bit harsh on the goalkeeper. It did seem initially as though he might have had enough time to get across and avoid that corner kick being given. But it is Ross Barkley standing over it. Right-footed, out-swinging corner towards the edge of the area. Azpilicueta heads it down, and then an overhead kick there from Chalobah. In fact, it was a sort of partial overhead. He was sort of turning and didn't quite get the bicycle kick extended like he would have liked. But that's a great clearance, though, from Alvaro Fernandes to find Bryan Mbeumo. He's holding the ball up now here for Shandon Baptiste, who breaks into the box. Baptiste tries to turn away from Simons. He just about managed it. Simons sticks a foot in and at least stops Baptiste getting into the penalty area. But Brentford still have the ball now down the left-hand side with Vitaly Janelt. Can find an option into the box, plays it back towards Pontus Jansson on the halfway line. Jansson just held on to the ball momentarily for going back towards Sorensen. Baptiste back towards Jensen again. The visitors just trying to press now as Brentford control the ball momentarily, but it is only for a moment here as Pinnock now finds some space. Oh, that's a good challenge though from Harvey Vale. He's having a good game, Vale, actually. Hasn't had as much of the ball going forward as he would have liked, but we've seen him 2 or 3 times now helping out in defence as he's trying to close down on Matthias Jensen here. Just caught him there as well. And that's going to be given as a free kick to Brentford, is it? Vitaly Janelt there a little bit unhappy, just having a word there with Andre Mariner. Don't think anyone could say that there was any intent there from Vale. He might have just clipped Jensen there on the calf, but playing on now, and the ball in midfield here. Baptiste under pressure there from Saul. He's lucky that Saul's challenge deflects into the path of Rico Henry, so Brentford still have the ball, and now Henry, oh, that's a wasted opportunity there. Both Vissa and Mbeumo had got forward. It looks like both of them had beat the offside trap, but the pass to them just a little bit over here. There's the ball now back with Kepa. Certainly looks a little bit better for Brentford now in these last few minutes. The first 10 or 15 minutes, the Bees could barely get any possession, let alone any possession over the halfway line. But now just looking a little bit more confident on the ball, and at least a couple of half chances for them as well. But now a ball looped up in the air by Matthias Jensen. Canos couldn't control it, and Pinnock and Vale fighting over this one, and it does break for a Harvey Vale. He then plays it into Alonso, edge of the area, just gets away from Matthias Jensen, leaves it now for Ross Barkley. Barkley across to the right-hand side, and it's Simons with the strike, but it's down the middle. And in the end, it's a good save from Fernandes. It was a comfortable save for the Brentford keeper there, really. Was going down the middle. He had time to watch that ball in. Didn't have a bounce or anything in front of him, so he was able to control that no problem at all. So now over on the left-hand side is Sorensen towards Vissa. towards Pontus Jansson. It's with Ethan Pinnock with Chelsea. Just sitting back a little bit more now in these last few minutes. Game just has lost a little bit of that pace, but now a great ball over the top, but there's no offside here as Rico Henry breaks into the penalty area, strike, and it's saved by Kepa. Kepa now looks across towards the linesman. I don't think the flag has gone up, so Brentford are going to get a corner kick out of this. But that's always the risk if any team that play high up in terms of a high defensive line, if that line is not quite straight, or if somebody's a little bit off, then all of a sudden the opposition have got so much of the pitch to work with. And Bryan Mbeumo is furious there that his colleague Henry didn't try to pass it to him. The angles were against Rico Henry, in all fairness. Should have perhaps looked up to try and see where Bryan Mbeumo was. It's out for a corner kick to Brentford now on the left-hand side. 40 minutes gone. It's goalless here between Brentford and Chelsea. The only quarter-final this evening to still be goalless as Jensen lifts across it. It's too low. Easily headed away by Saul. Loose ball now back with Vitaly Janelt at the edge of the area, and he threads the ball into the penalty area just away from Sorensen. And Sunsa Bell now able to clear this one down the right-hand side. Or tracking that one all the way to his own penalty area is Shandon Baptiste. Plays it back towards Alvaro Fernandez. Now it's with Pontus Jansson. Of course, after this evening, English football takes just a few days off, 23rd, 24th, and of course Christmas Day, and then back on Boxing Day with a bang, and really the next 10 days after that. Absolute marathon of football for players, commentators and supporters alike. It's fascinating to see just how many. It certainly looks as though, as far as the Premier League are concerned, they're going to try and play every game. It's already seen a few other EFL games cancelled this evening, cancelled for Boxing Day and into next week as well. Of course, league sides don't have the squads don't have the flexibility. They're missing 5 or 6 players. It really is going to be a huge disadvantage to them. Though arguably in the Premier League you'd say that so many teams could say the same thing. So the ball now bounces through towards Alvaro Fernandez. Moves it out to Henry down the left-hand side. Janelt now in towards Matthias Jensen, and Jensen trying an early ball looking for Mbeumo, but that's a very confident header there from Azpilicueta. Puts enough height on it to make sure that it gets away from anyone in a red and white shirt, and safely into the arms of the goalkeeper Kepa. Still a couple of Brentford players hanging around the edge of the area, but Kepa bowls this one out towards Kovacic. He's closed down by Jensen, but gets away from him relatively easily in the end there, Kovacic. Janelt doing his best to try and stop him as well, but now here comes Ross Barkley, and he tries to get a ball in towards Xavier Simons, who's running down the right-hand side. The ball just gets away from him, but it's still kept alive down the left here with Alonso. He's got Barkley for support there with him on that left-hand side. Now back to Kovacic. 3 Chelsea players inside the penalty, or at least at the edge of the area, keeping an eye on that offside line. Azpilicueta now lifts across in. There's no marking, and that's a really good chance. And Harvey Vale has got to do better there, really. Admittedly, he's a young player. Doesn't have too much time in the Chelsea first team. It's in fact his debut in the first team. But he'll be disappointed in terms of being unmarked. And not really able to get a, I beg your pardon, he has actually had one appearance in the EFL Cup already this season, but certainly that was a good chance for him. And that's a warning for Brentford as well. For all that hard work in terms of being organised in defence, if you're going to leave a player 7 or 8 yards out completely unmarked, I mean literally with a square yard around him to try and work in, then you're potentially going to get punished. But on that occasion, thankfully, as far as Brentford are concerned, the header straight at Alvaro Fernandez. But here comes Alonso now, down the left-hand side for Chelsea. Gets to the edge of the area, tries to get away from Sergi Canos, brought down by Sergi Canos. And that is a free kick to Chelsea right at the edge of the penalty area. Canos still trying to argue his case there, but Andre Mariner is not having it at all. Feels as though that was a foul. I mean, Canos is a little bit unlucky because he sort of treads on the ball, which then causes his foot to slip a little bit, but I'm still not sure. I'll see from this replay now. Now, the problem is that the right foot, which is trying to get the ball, isn't really the problem. It's the left foot that gets tangled with Alonso and brings him down. It does seem to me as though it was the right decision. This is one that Brentford have to be careful of. A good opportunity this now for Chelsea. This free kick coming in from Barkley, aims at the near post. The two-man wall does its job, and now it's Mbeumo trying to start a counter-attack here for Brentford. He's brought down by Harvey Vale, and Mbeumo holding his right foot there. It's going to be a yellow card for Harvey Vale. It's the second time that he's crunched a Brentford player, albeit that first time I don't think there was any intent with Matthias Jensen. I don't think there was any intent here with Mbeumo. I think he is trying to get the ball, but it's just a bit clumsy from the Chelsea youngster. And he goes down on Mbeumo. That may well be the last action of this half. Hardly had any stoppages, really. And Harvey Vale picks up that yellow card. We've had just a few seconds of injury time, and that is it as far as Andre Mariner is concerned. It's half-time here at the Brentford Community Stadium, with Brentford and Chelsea drawing 0-0. And I'll be back in 15 minutes for second half off-tube studio commentary.